Hello, it's Jimmy, and today I'm going to talk about two thrillers that I read last year in 2018. I haven't made a video focusing on either of these books yet, but I have mentioned them both in other videos. One of them came up as my most disappointing read of 2018, and the other one, I mentioned them both I think in my video about Rebecca, because of the fact that some people do refer to Rebecca as a kind of a gothic thriller. Both of these books are much more recent. I think they both came out in 2018. So the first one I read was Snap by Belinda Bauer. And Snap was longlisted for the Book Prize in 2018, which is very unusual for a crime novel. And Val McDermid, who's a very well-respected Scottish crime author, although I haven't read any of her books, but she's supposed to be good, she was on the Booker committee, and there's a quote from her on the cover of the copy of Snap, that at least the one we sell in the shop where I work, that says it's the best crime novel she's read for a long time. So I gave it a try. I read it on ebook and I did enjoy it. I did find it compelling. I read it in one day pretty much, and I found it it was almost like reading, it was almost like watching a film. You could almost call it a dramedy, because it's very intense on the drama and the emotional aspect of what's going on. And a lot of that is about a boy and his siblings whose mother went missing and then turned out she'd been murdered when they were quite young. And that was very traumatic, and then their lives just fall apart. So there's a lot of very sensitive exploration of emotion and human character and resilience and stress and the effect of trauma and things like that. But there were also some really comedic moments in the book, especially in the sort of the second half of the book, when there's a lot more police activity going on. I found that most of the police scenes were the kind of the comic relief, and most of the scenes with the main characters were kind of the pathos moments. I think both worked well. I don't know really if... I feel like the serious elements of it, you might feel they were slightly undermined by the sillier elements of it, but I quite like having both in the book. I think I would have enjoyed it less if it didn't have those funny bits in it. It did have one really quite thrilling moment near the beginning, but apart from that, a lot of the action came in towards the end, which seems to be a bit of a pattern with a lot of thrillers, that the action really heats up in the last quarter of the book. It turned out that the author Belinda Bauer, before writing novels, had tried to become a screenwriter. So it makes sense that you could picture it, or I could picture it so strongly as it would appear in a film or TV show as I was reading it. But it was a good book. There were a couple of twists that I was quite shocked by and surprised by. There were a couple of bits where it felt a bit obvious what was going on, and almost sort of eye-rollingly obvious. A couple of scenes where you just think, what, how dense do these characters have to be for them to be shocked by what's happening? But on the whole, it was a good book. I was a little bit surprised that it was longlisted for the Booker, and I didn't quite understand why it was being rated so highly. I did think it was good, but I was a bit surprised that this was being hailed as a real standout of the crime genre or the thriller genre from the past few years. Then I read The Temp by Michelle Francis, which came out, I think, September 2018. I read both of these on ebook. Sadly, my e-reader has since broken, but that's a different story. So, The Temp is also written by someone who has worked on TV and film more successfully, I understand. So the author is Michelle Francis, and she has been a drama executive at the BBC, so she's been quite successful. And The Temp, the basic premise is it's about a woman who works in TV producing, goes on maternity leave, and then gets a bit paranoid that the person who replaces her or who fills in for her as a temp while she's on maternity leave, is trying to replace her in many ways. That premise, by the way, apparently, and Charlotte brought this up in my best and worst videos, best and worst books of 2018, the video that I did with her. The premise is very similar to a BBC drama miniseries called The Replacement, which came out in 2017. So I do wonder, did Michelle Francis work on both of those? Because she is, or at least was at the time, a BBC drama executive. So that would be an interesting coincidence. And it's very meta because the book is about TV writers and producers. It's written by a TV producer, and now it relates to a TV show, The Replacement. Unfortunately, I was really disappointed in The Temp. It didn't feel very well written. Some of the twists were quite shocking, but in a kind of an over-the-top way that felt a little bit cheap and not really using the kind of exploration of human emotion that went on in Snap. So I did enjoy it. It's another one that I read pretty much in one day, so I did find it compelling. There were a couple of moments that I really enjoyed, but on the whole I thought it was much lower quality than Snap and made me appreciate Snap a bit more. But one thing that I did enjoy about both of these thrillers, they didn't depend too much on gratuitous violence and gratuitous gore. There's a bit of violence in both of them, but nothing over the top, and that wasn't really sort of the point of it. It didn't feel too much like an over the top action film. There was a little bit more going on than that in both of them. So if you are looking for an easy, light, entertaining read, then sure, give The Temp a go. If you're looking for something, again, easy to read, but a little bit heavier, then Snap is a good choice. And if you've got any recommendations for really good thrillers that you definitely recommend, let me know, and maybe I can branch out a little bit more and get a better appreciation for the genre. So, thanks very much for watching. If you want to get in touch, you can leave a comment on YouTube, or you can tweet me at Jimi, JIIM_E, or you can get me on Instagram at Jimi Can Read. That's JIMI_CAN_READ. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention in my thriller video, have you read the article in the New Yorker about the author of The Woman in the Window? Pretty shocking stuff. I feel like that article is probably more entertaining than the book. But yes, did you read it? What did you think? Let's chat about it if you did.